Hello, good morning. Hello, can you hear me?
Good
Hello,
morning, teacher.
good morning. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, fine. Right. So, in our last session, we were discussing about what was the topic that we handled during our last session? The overall topic. What did we discuss about? Have you forgotten so soon within a week? Just tell me the topic of the previous session. What was it? What was that module all about? Forget about the topic. The entire module was more or less based on what? You don't have any notes or anything to just refresh your memories and try to remember? Right. Okay. We focused on grammar. So the entire module was about grammar, certain grammatical aspects. We dealt with several grammatical aspects. Just try to remind yourself of any grammatical aspect that we discussed during those 4 days, 4 sessions.
parts of speech.
Good.
That's the one.
Parts of reported speech. Other grammatical aspects we discussed under that particular module. Right? So today we are going to move on to the next module. So we have concluded module number unit 3, right? So we have concluded unit 3, the 4 days of unit 3, and today we will be starting with unit 4. So this doesn't have anything to do with unit 3, what we are going to discuss today, but I want to just remind you about your self-study task. Now that you have concluded unit 3, make sure you complete all the self-study tasks that have been assigned to you up to now, right? So starting from unit 1 to unit 3, you will be having roughly around 4 into 3, 12 self-study tasks. Under each unit, you have 4 sessions. So 4 into 3, 12. Complete all those 12 self-study tasks and send it to the institute on the 17th of April. Don't wait till the last moment. On or before the 17th, email those self-study tasks. Right? So don't email it after the 17th. You can, but you will be losing out on marks. Right? Thereby, don't submit it late. Just try to make it before the 17th of April. Right? So I hope that you have received an email regarding these self-study tasks and how you should be um, sending it across to them. Did you receive an email, a reminder?
Yeah, miss, we received. The thing is, initially they told 7th of April. To see in the last moment they sent it as 17th. But
Yeah.
I thought, don't know if it is a typing error, 7 to 17th. So now I understand the date is changed, right? So
Right.
can
So
we like
the
make some
7th
more
of April means it
modifications
should have been
in that?
yesterday. So have you already finished sending?
Yeah, I sent it yesterday.
Then it's okay. Fine. If you had finished sending and if you had adhered to that deadline, then no worries.
Mm.
Let it be. Right? So
No, can we like make some more modifications? Like we can make it more better, right?
you want
If
to do,
yeah,
you want to edit your answers and send it over again.
yeah. Now, if there is any, it was
Right?
like very rush time because we had to do within a week. So that's the thing. So if
Okay.
there's
Then
any,
if you want to do any improvements, you
mm,
can do it, but send it before the
yeah,
17th.
before Sunday. Yeah, miss. Okay, miss. Thank you.
And you know what and what you need to include. What and what in the sense the information that you need to include on your self-study task, the date, your name, and all those things are clear to you, right? Your course number and
Yeah,
all those,
yeah.
right? So just follow that, um, uh, go by that email and send it to them before the 17th, right? So your tasks will be marked, and for your final grading, this performance will be counted. So don't just take it lightly, thinking, let me write something and send it across to them. It's not the way to handle. Make sure that you do a good job and send it by the 17th, right? And hereafter, that is now from next week onwards, you won't be getting emails, but your performance in the self-study task will be definitely monitored. So what you have to do is, now if your class is on Saturday, make sure you send your self-study task on or before the coming Wednesday, right? So that is your deadline. Since it's going to be on Saturday, your class, you just complete it and send it to them by Wednesday. Latest is by Wednesday. If you can send it by Tuesday, it's good, right? So don't keep it or try piling it up. Just week by week, you have to send it to them by latest by Wednesday, right? The following Wednesday. You won't be getting emails. Uh, Maybe that if you haven't sent for about 3 or 4 weeks, you might be getting a reminder, but don't wait till you get the reminder. Better you send it to them on every Wednesday, latest by Wednesday, right? So follow that practice. So that's all about your self-study task. And today we will be starting with the new unit, that is unit 4.
Excuse me, madam.
Yes.
Should we send the proofs by as a PDF document or a Word document?
Better you send it as a word, right?
Okay,
So
madam.
it'll be easy for me to mark. Right. So today we will be starting with unit 4, where our main focus will be on understanding the learner behavior, right? So when it comes to the teaching learning process, the learner behavior counts. We are going to interact with learners from different backgrounds and with different intelligence level. Whereby teacher needs to understand or teacher needs to know about the possible learner behaviors. All 40 or 20 learners in the class will not have the same behavioral patterns. There will be many differences observed. Differences can be observed among them. So we need to understand the basic of learner behavior, why they are behaving or adapting to a particular kind of behavior, what is learner behavior, and how can it be handled. Right? Behind particular behavioral pattern, there is always a message that it is trying to convey. So we should be able to understand what child actually needs or what it tries to communicate through the behavior. So that is what is discussed in Unit 4, Learner Behavior and Learning Styles. So learner behavior and learning styles, they have some connection, some relationship. They influence one another, particularly the learner behavior is a result or it has an influence on the learning style of the particular learner. Similarly, the learning style of the learner also influences how he or she behaves. So it is both ways. It influences both ways, right? So that is what we are going to discuss in Unit 4. Just have a look at the subtopics that we will be handling under learner behavior and learning styles. We try to define what learner behavior is, right? So now this is a broad term. What does it denote or what is it all about? That is what is mentioned under this particular topic. Then you have certain characteristics or features of learner behavior. And learner behavior and its functions. Why people behave in a certain manner. Right? So when it comes to children, why do children behave in different manners? How it should be handled, learner behavior, how it has to be handled. And then facilitating, how can you regulate learner behaviors? Or if you want to just make them behave better, what are the tips that we can follow? And the last part of it will be the different learning styles used by different kinds of learners. Thereby, learners are categorized under different. Based on the learning styles, we tend to categorize the learner types. Right? So, these are the subtopics that we will be handling. Read up. Right. So when we think of learner behavior, we focus on the developmental stages of childhood. Since the learners that we will be handling can belong to any of these stages, mostly starting from early childhood up to adolescence. We come across learners in our classes, right? So thereby, be clear about the different stages in which we will be handling or the learner belong to, right? So the stages of childhood, infancy to mainly from 1 year up to 2 years or maybe to 3 years, right? So that is termed as infancy. We are not going to deal with these learners who belong to this stage, right? So we will be focusing much about the behavior of children who belong to this particular age group, 1 to 3. Early childhood, more or less kids in the Montessori, 3 to 5, right? So there can be children who are 5 years or maybe 5 plus in the primary grades, but mostly we don't deal with children who belong to early childhood as well. It's usually the Montessori teachers who handle this age group of children. We start meeting learners who belong to these two categories, middle and late childhood. That is learners who belong to 6 years or from 6 years to 12, 6 to 12 or 11, they come under middle or late childhood. So children who are in the primary grades, maybe from grade 1 to grade 5, they fall under this category. Right? So these are the learners that we might come across in our primary grades. And then the adolescents from grade 6 onwards, 6 to 13, grade 6 to 13, they fall to the last category, the adolescence category. Right? So when considering the learner behavior, we need to focus our attention more towards these two categories, since we will be directly dealing with them, middle and late childhood as well as adolescence. Right? But you should definitely understand the different developmental stages of childhood. Each of these stages has an influence on the other. If the first stage is not properly developed, obviously it will have some kind of an effect on following, right? So them who are not well formed or who are not been developed properly during the early childhood, when they enter into the school, that is the primary grades, immediately they are not going to have a very positive middle or late child, right? So they are not trained during their early childhood. For example, those who haven't attended a Montessori or nursery classes, they will struggle in their middle childhood in terms of socialization and following instructions and all. Remember the 4 stages that any learner, any child goes through, and remember it's a scaffolding like. So one stage definitely influences the other. So we can't just take them in isolation and try to understand why this child is behaving in this particular manner. It will definitely have some kind of a connection to the previous stage that the child has undergone. Right, look at this. Diversified behavioral patterns can be observed in children right from the time they are born. They communicate direct or indirect information through their behaviors, right? Particularly in early childhood, when verbal communication is limited, children convey messages more through behavioral patterns, right? Starting from simple reflections during infancy, the learner behavior gets extended to different forms during each stage of life, right? Reflections means involuntary actions. Like when you observe an infant, it will just smile or blinking its eyes. All those are known to be reflections, right? So starting from, so even through reflections, there is some kind of a message conveyed to the caretaker or to the. So starting from reflections, learner behavior gets extended. Deliberately, they perform certain behaviors. Right? So that is how childhood and learner behavior gets related to each other. Starting from infancy, you can observe learner behavior, and you also need to understand the different stages. Then you are given a definition, a very formal definition in terms of learner behavior. Forget about the infancy behavior and all. More or less starting from early childhood, or more than early childhood, middle childhood. Starting from middle childhood, onwards, what is learner behavior defined as? Go through. So see, it's termed as the link between the way in which children or young people learn and their social knowledge and behavior. So learner behavior has something to do with the knowledge, social knowledge of the particular person based on the social knowledge, as well as their behavior, how they learn. When it comes to the classroom scenario, we identify learner behavior in terms of learning. Learning, it can be new, it can be something to do with the language or some other discipline. So always learner behavior is the relation between the way in which children learn their social knowledge and the behavioral pattern, right? So academic, social, all those, any kind of knowledge, how it is learned in the class. That is what is identified as the learner behavior, the way the learner learns. In doing this, the focus is upon establishing positive relationships across three elements: self, others, and curriculum. So whenever a learner is learning, it can be some academic knowledge, it can be some social knowledge, or it can be learning the behavior itself, right? So whatever it is learned, how is the learning process taking place? By establishing relationships with three important things. One is with the self. The learner is developing a relationship with him or herself. He is getting to know himself or herself better. Then others. Others here stands for the peers as well as with the teacher. He develops relationships with his peers as well as with his tutor, or maybe with the entire class, right? So there are other people influencing him in the learning process. The relationship that he develops with those people come under this, right? So in other words, all these are determining the behavior of the learners. The knowledge about himself is going to determine his behavior. The knowledge about the others, whatever the knowledge that he has about others, or even the behavior of the others, is going to determine his own behavior. And the curriculum, syllabus, course book, even the curriculum stuff has some kind of a control in his behavior, right? So what he is learning, the subject content, determines his behavior. So it's not something that happens all of a sudden, or it's not a one-off moment. Every day, when the child interacts with others, when the child interacts with the curriculum, when the child interacts with several other people or other situations like at home or maybe with his family members, he develops a particular behavioral pattern, right? So these three elements determine the learner behavior, right? So you have to clearly understand what is meant by learner behavior, the link between the way children learn something that is new, right? So children acquire knowledge. So when they, in the process of acquisition, they come across these three important forces that determine their behavior. And those three are discussed here in a deep manner. Read one by one how the relationship with himself or herself determines the learner behavior. Focus your attention to the highlighted phrases. So in terms of self-determining learner behavior, how should the learner develop himself? He should be a confident learner. First of all, he has to develop self-confidence in himself. Then only he'll be able to learn or acquire knowledge. If he doesn't have self-confidence, however much he tries, he won't be able to succeed in his mission. Right? So if he wants to be a successful learner, he has to first believe in himself. That is the first requirement in understanding or in acquiring knowledge and determining your behavior. So you have to be a self-confident person. So that is what is mentioned under the relationship with self. See, a pupil who does not feel confident as a learner and who has internalized a view that he is unable to succeed as a learner will be more likely to engage in the challenge of learning, will be more unlikely to engage in the challenge of learning, and may be more inclined to present unwanted behavior. So the foremost requirement for learning. Now, learning is not something very easy. It's very challenging for the child. So in spite of all the challenges, the most important requirement for the learner to learn something or to acquire new knowledge is to build up self-confidence, to believe in himself. As long as he is able to believe in his capabilities, he will be able to succeed. Right? So that is how this self in the acquisition of knowledge, that is how the self impacts. If the person is self-confident, if he has the, if he believes in himself that he can really stand or make it happen, then of course his behavioral pattern will change. Then you have the relationship with others. How does the relationship with others help him in deciding his own behavior? Read and tell how it is helping him. So who are the others, or who are denoted as others? The other pupils, maybe peers, teachers, or those adults that he will come across in his day-to-day life. In it can be in the home setting, it can be in the school setting, anyone who will have some kind of an influence in child's behavior, right? So whatever relationship, if he has some good people to imitate or some good people to follow as role models, definitely his behavior will be influenced positively through them. On the other hand, if his peers are going to be somewhat children who with deviant behavioral patterns or who come from a background with certain negative kind of behavior, that will have a negative behavioral influence on the child as well, right? So the relationship with others it's very powerful in determining the behavior of the learner. Then you have the relationship with the curriculum. I don't want to read this word by word. I hope you can understand when you read the second part of it. Come to the third part of it. Learner behavior and curriculum progress are very closely linked, right? So the curriculum influences certain behavioral patterns, the knowledge that they get from the content of the subject, or maybe the knowledge that they find in the syllabus, or given as some extra knowledge that is given by the teacher. All those come under curriculum. Even the extracurricular activities that they do at school, all determines the learner behavior. All that comes under this. Teachers who promote a sense of meaningful curriculum progress in learning will be more likely to create positive behavioral environment. Whether it's going to be curriculum or co-curriculum activities, if they have a positive impact, definitely the learner behavior will be developed, or the learners will have a positive learner behavior. If the curriculum is strange or it's so totally unfamiliar, or there is no connection at all with real life, then it will not going to promote any kind of positive learner behavior. Right? So that is how the self, others, and curriculum determine learner behavior. Right? So there are several aspects that focuses or influences on the learner behavior. So tell me, what is learner behavior overall? Just try to define it or explain it in your own terms. What do you understand by learner behavior? If you just tell it very simply, how can you define it or how can you explain it? You have no way of explanation. Okay. Read it. I'll change the slide. Just go through it and tell it in your own language.
It is a knowledge that they learn.
What is learner behavior? How is it influenced, or what are the things that determine the learner behavior?
And knowledge from the society.
Nothing, you don't understand anything? Tell me something, whatever that comes to your mind regarding learner behavior. It can be right, it can be wrong. Don't worry about the accuracy of the answer. Just give it a try. Tell me the 3 factors that determine the learner behavior. The 3 important factors that decide how a person behaves.
Self, others, and curriculum.
Right, sellers and curriculum. How does self or the particular person determines his or her own behavior? What makes him to behave in such a way? What is the most striking quality that he needs in terms of behaving in a particular way?
Madam, self-confidence is essential to succeed. If a person is feeling low, so if a person is feeling low with regarding himself, he won't be able to succeed.
Right, he wants to develop positive learning behaviors. Always he will be under inferiority complex, and that will definitely lead him astray. So that is about self. How self determines the behavior of a person. Then who are the other 2 people or other 2 things that are influencing the behavior?
The second category is relationship with others, means the surrounding environment, the students, the peers, the teachers, the neighbors maybe, who are around the student. So that their interaction, the students' interaction with them also influence in changing the behavioral patterns of a child.
Right. So if positive interactions or if positive influence is got from the adults, learner behavior will change for the betterment. If negative imitation or if negative behavioral patterns are found amongst the teachers or peers or adults, definitely that will have a negative impact, or it will lead the child's behavior in a negative manner. What about the last one? Curriculum. How does that determine?
A positive behavioral environment is created with a meaningful curriculum. So
Right,
if
and
the curriculum is something strange for the learner, he or she won't develop a positive attitude towards the curriculum that he or she is learning.
right. He won't develop a positive curriculum and he won't behave in a positive manner towards that learning content as well, right? He will just try to overlook or ignore what he is learning. As long as it has some kind of a utility value, or it is going to impact him in maybe doing a job in his future, in getting him an occupation, or in performing certain tasks, day-to-day tasks, if the curriculum is going to help him out, definitely his behavior will get shaped by the curriculum. Then you have the characteristics of learner behavior. Just go through. There are certain features that can be attributed to learner behavior. Learner behavior is determined by hereditary and environmental factors. Now, earlier we saw the self, others, curriculum, all those are environmental factors. Right? So, by changing the environmental factors, learners' behavior can be shaped. But at the same time, even hereditary. What do you mean by Hereditary, what is the meaning of it? Coming from whom? Hereditary qualities or hereditary characteristics are, how are they getting transmitted, or how do you get those qualities? From whom?
Coming from parents and his or
Parents.
her lineage, madam.
Right. So it's basically coming from the parents. Genetically, you get that. So certain qualities, more or less, it's related to qualities as well as the moralities are believed to be hereditary, like the moral conduct, how a person conducts himself, um, spirituality, all those are believed to be hereditary or inherited hereditarily, right? So learner behavior has both influence, environment as well as heredity. Both have equal impact on determining the learner's behavior, especially personality traits, likes, dislikes. These are known to be hereditary. What you like, or how, why you like certain things, and your traits like anger, being very sober, honesty, all those are believed to be hereditary. It doesn't mean that you can't change them. You can change them with the environmental factors, but they are more or less inherited from the parents. Second one, so that is one feature regarding behavior. Second one, students learn a pattern of behavior through observation or through feedback and consequences, right? So these three are very influential when it comes to determining behavior. Observing, when it comes to the small children, they learn, most of the time they learn something by observation, imitation and observation. Through feedback, whatever the feedback given by parents, teachers, the advice, you can even take it as an advice, and the consequence. When they behave in a certain way, are they getting rewarded or are they getting punished? Based on the reward and punishment principle, they will determine whether to continue with the behavior or to give up that behavior, right? So all these three have very powerful impact in deciding the behavioral patterns of students, right? Observation, people whom they observe, or different situations that they observe, the advice or the feedback that they get from their peers, elders, and how they are treated based on their behavior. Individuals may learn new behavior by observing. So already it's mentioned in the previous one, other people's behavior. That is through social learning or modeling, right? So it's once again very much concerned with primary grades. Small children, they just learn something by imitating, just by looking at the teacher or maybe one of their parent or maybe an adult, right? So learning through modeling or imitation. Thereby, the behavior, the adult behavior should be definitely taken into consideration. How the teacher behaves in the class, the words spoken by the teacher in the class, that will definitely have an impact on the child. Knowingly or unknowingly, the child will pick up those characteristics, right? So we can't just say nobody is going to observe me, who is there to look at me and all, right? So definitely the child will be observing. Even without his knowledge, he will get influenced by the any adult. It can be the teacher or it can be some other adult who is around him. So that is how behavior is learned. Parents, caretakers have a great impact upon children from infancy to early childhood, right? So this is the particular period where behavior is learned through imitation. So they won't actually know whether it's correct or not, but still they will imitate. Even if it is going to be something bad, they will imitate. The child is not matured enough to distinguish the good from the bad. So whatever he just sees, he will tend to imitate. Social models are mostly imitated by learners in middle and late childhood, right? So these are the social models when it comes to the educational setup. It can be teachers, it can be their own peers or siblings, social stars, religious leaders like actors, cricket stars, film stars, right? All those people come under politicians, social stars, right? So there is a tendency for small children who are within this particular age group, 6 to 15, to determine their behavior by imitating social models. Right, so these are some of the characteristics of how learner behavior is acquired. So nobody tells them this is how you have to behave. It takes place in their system naturally, mostly through observation. Read. As the child gets matured, behavior is learned. When maturity comes, maybe around the age of 16, 17, the learner is able to distinguish the right from the wrong. Thereby, he is able to unlearn whatever the behavioral features that exist in him, which are negative, can be unlearned, right? So that is why with small children, extra care is needed since they don't know which is right and which is wrong. But when it comes to adult learners or maybe children who are in the adolescence, they are capable of distinguishing behavioral patterns. Thereby, learning and unlearning becomes easy for them. This is already we have discussed about it. Behavior is learned by imitating a role model to which the learner has immediate access, right? So those of the role models that are found in the immediate surroundings are more or less imitated, not people who are found in faraway places. Each student is unique and therefore requires individualized approach based on the purpose or function of the student's behavior, right? So people don't have identical behavioral patterns. They have their own unique behavioral patterns. Therefore, even when catering to their needs, some kind of a individualized approach is needed. Behavior is influenced by reinforcements or other consequences received after the behavior occurs, right? So if they behave in a positive way. You can reward them. You can give them good verbal rewards like keep it up, well done, right? Something to encourage them to continue with their positive behavior. Or it can be even rewarding them with prizes, physical prizes, or giving them a better position in the class, right? So all those come under reinforcement. Consequences, if their behavior is somewhat negative, maybe by implementing certain kinds of punishments or by depriving certain things from the learner, you can make him to learn those behaviors. Altering setting or environment may improve student behavior. The context in which that behavior is happening or taking place should be adjusted, mostly when it comes to negative behavior, if you want to do away with the behavior. The peers that child is coming into contact with. Or maybe any other situation. It can be a game or it can be some other situation. Now, some situations may lead the child to speak lies. So, better to avoid those situations than to punish the child, right? Teachers and school-based teams need observational data to determine the function of the behavior of learners. So when it comes to handling learner behavior, it cannot be done randomly, irrationally you can't do. Now there are certain cases, children who might speak lies throughout, every day the same thing, or every day they will be, whatever that they speak will be lies. Right? So in those cases, those deviant behaviors need to be handled based on observational data. Right? So you have to observe the child over a period of time and then determine what needs to be rectified in that learner. Right? So that those are some features or characteristics of learner behavior. Once again, go through them quickly. Common or general features when it comes to learner behavior. Read up once again and tell me any feature that you can remember with regard to learner behavior. Okay, tell any feature of the learner behavior. Quickly, we can't waste time. Just tell a few features that we discussed under learner behavior.
Madam, at the initial stage, the behavior of a learner is determined through hereditary factors and the environmental factors.
Okay. Right, so that is one, hereditary and environment determine the learner behavior. Mostly through hereditary, what kind of behavioral patterns are determined? They influence a particular kind, a set of behavioral patterns. What kind of them?
The personal traits, likes and dislikes, the
Okay,
way
the
they
moral conduct as well as the qualities of the learner are mostly influenced by hereditary. Okay, some other feature related to behavior?
And learner learners learn behaviors through observation, feedback, and
Any other
consequences.
feature that we focused on?
Through observations.
I can't hear you. You're telling something, but it's not at all clear. Or put it in the chat box.
Can you hear me?
Yes, anybody else? Only one or two people are speaking. What about the others? Now, don't wait till I call out your names. You can just unmute and come out with a few features of learner behavior. That's it.
Madam, and then they gradually learn by observation and feedbacks, reinforcements, and sometimes by modeling others, such as teachers, their peers, uh, celebrities, and likewise.
Okay. So they have social influences. Behavior is more or less impacted by social influences that are found around the child. So that is why you have to place the child in a proper social context. Then only his behavior will get regulated. Otherwise, he might get trapped by the negative behavior of the adults or the social stars. Right, so then we move on to the learner behavior and its functions. Why people behave or why behave in a particular manner. See, any learner behavior has a dual function too, right? With the aim of either obtaining something or avoiding a situation or avoiding something, learners behave in a particular manner. If they want to learn, it can be wanting to learn a particular topic or just trying to hide themselves or do away with that particular topic, right? So to avoid learning certain things. So only mostly it's due to this dual function, people tend to behave in a particular manner. In terms of obtaining something, depends how they are behaving, right? If they want to obtain something or get something from the teacher or from somebody else, they will behave in a particular manner. When a learner is unable to obtain attention in appropriate ways, he resorts to negative behavior such as screaming, disrupting the class, hitting other students, or creating confusion in class. Right? So there are learners in our classes who will be off and on disturbing the class. What is their problem? They are not given attention. When the teacher doesn't focus attention on them, they tend to draw the attention of the teachers by engaging in these kind of activities. When they disturb the others who are sitting around them, obviously the teacher's focus will be shifted to that particular person, right? So their need is to obtain the teacher's attention. That is why they are more or less behaving in that way, right? So once they get central attention, they will be calm. They will calm down and they will try to quiet. Students may become aggressive in order to obtain desired goods when they are in need of certain physical needs, or it can be a physical thing. They behave very aggressively. They will fight with the other. When another person has some stationary items which are far more better than that of him, they become aggressive. Jealousy, aggressive, all those things come into play, right? So to get something, to get a physical object or maybe any other physical need, aggressive behavioral patterns can be observed. Then the next one is to control, to gain control over the situation. When they feel that they are weak or there are more able ones than them, they tend to take control over the situation. When there is an inferiority complex, they become rebellious and tend to take control over the situation, right? So these are some examples for obtaining, how learners will behave in a particular way to obtain something. So when you have these kind of behavioral patterns in the class, you should immediately remember that the child is in need. There is a necessity for the child for something. Then in terms of avoiding something, see how they are going to behave, mostly how they behave if they are to avoid some situation or avoid some people. Do not like to get the attention. So anyone who doesn't like to get the attention of the teacher, act out or refuse to participate, however much you try, they will never contribute. They will never respond back to you. So what is their problem? They want to go away or avoid that particular situation. They don't want to learn that. Now, mostly when it comes to certain subjects like mathematics, science, and why even English, when they feel that they are not competent enough to learn that subject, what they do is they tend to avoid, or however much the teacher tries hard, they will refuse to participate in the lesson. So as long as the teacher and the learner rapport is good, even though if they are incompetent, still they will try to do something or not even to disturb the class. Learners may display inappropriate behavior to avoid doing a task or answering a question, right? So when the child is avoiding the teacher or avoiding learning, that is a clear indication that he doesn't like or he is incompetent in learning that particular subject. And you are given examples for that: appear to be sick, try to find excuse. All these are ways by which the child is avoiding something. He will never be sick or he will not have any kind of ailment, but he will just act it out like that in order to avoid that situation. Looking stupid, dumb, right? So all these are clear indications of avoidance. Students may lie or cheat to avoid the unpleasant consequences. If the teacher is strict disciplinarian, if he or she punishes very well, obviously the child will come out with eyes. Right? So it's a way of avoiding punishments. Right? So remember, learner behavior has two purposes. One is to obtain. In order to get something, they will behave in a particular manner, or avoid from a unpleasant situation, from a particular scenario, they will behave in a specific way. You should be able to give examples for both of these situations. Then we move on to how learner behavior is handled. See, let's go through the procedure. Observing the learners in formal and informal setting, right? So assessing learner behavior or determining learner behavior is very difficult. When they feel that they are being observed, there is a tendency of modification or modifying the behavior, right? Thereby, informal setup. It can be in a classroom setup, or maybe when they are in the library or any formal place, their behavior should be observed, including in informal settings, during interval times, when they are in the playground, when they are just chatting with their friends. All those are examples for informal setting. If we find a child speaking lies, that should be observed in formal settings as well as informal settings. Then only we can conclude whether it's purposely done or whether it's the behavioral pattern of the child. Next one. So you can't be just judgmental. It has to be observed over a period of time, and then only the behavioral pattern should be determined. Recording regarding their behavior, maintaining records. For how long is this behavioral pattern existing in the child? Maybe it could have been something that had started long time back, even before we met the child. So that is how we come into contact with the parents or maybe with the caretakers. We have a meeting with them and tend to understand for how long that behavioral pattern is existing in that child. So you record it. Or maybe the other influences, factors that influence, all those need to be recorded. Identifying the probable reasons for the behavior, right? Again, by speaking to the parents or friends or maybe to the teachers or adults around him, and we come to a final conclusion on the probable reasons. Initial decision making as well as continuous monitoring. So we hypothetically arrive on a decision. Now these can be the factors that has made the child to behave in this manner. If he is coming from a broken family, or if the child doesn't have the parental care or the mother's love, that can result in a certain behavioral manner, right? So we come to a conclusion or decision for the based on these reasons. Then the behavioral supports are given, right? Positive behavior supports are given. It can be in the form of advice, it can be changing the situation or the context in which the child is placed, right? So any kind of, or counseling, when it goes to a great extent, it can be by giving counseling and matching appropriate teaching strategies to student needs. If they are reluctant to lead, we need to find a way out that would promote leading for them. It can be having an extra class or maybe pairing him up with abled peers, right? So that is how behavioral defects or behavioral deviant behavior, children who are with deviant behavior is handled. So whatever we discussed over there is just given in the form of this grid. Go through and understand. The same procedure is given in the form of an illustration. Right. Then you have facilitating learner behavior. You don't have much over here. How we can help the child out to behave positively. Be clear about the rules and let students help create their own. So there should be certain rules. Comes to a classroom, have certain ground rules. I should be informed about those rules, and they should be well informed regarding those rules, and not be informing them, they should be monitored, right? Whether they are following it or not. Model positive behavior. Teacher himself or herself has to be a good role model for the child to follow, right? So model positive behavior in the classroom. It's the teacher's responsibility. Have class meetings. Very often, just meet, not formally, informally, just speak to them and have some kind of a close relationship, rapport with them that will bring down so many unwanted behavioral patterns that exist in the children, particularly when they come to adolescence age. Show appreciation or recognition for the good work and positive behavior. Always reward them, reinforce them for their whatever. It can be a very simple task that they have done, but that should not be overlooked. It should be rewarded. Just by giving a verbal reward, we are not going to lose out on anything, but that will definitely make a huge impact in determining the behavioral pattern of the child. Right? So these are some very simple tips that can be implemented in the classrooms and which will definitely have a huge lot of bearing in determining positive behavior. Then you have some more, just go through them. 10 ways to increase, here it's mentioned as active engagement. Basically, they are determining or increasing positive behavior in the learners. Let's go through them, it's for your knowledge. Draw to represent information, not only drawing, get them engaged in aesthetics. It can be singing, it can be dancing. So emotions, basically when they are engaged in emotions, aesthetics, their emotions are let out. Emotions contribute a lot in human behavior. So that is why it's always advised to get the children involved in aesthetic activities like music, dancing, or martial arts, something to do like karate, right? So all those determine the behavioral pattern. Provide guided notes for students to finish during lessons. Instructions. Give them clear instructions. Don't keep on changing instructions time to time. That will puzzle the child and it will result in negative behavioral patterns. So have a set of ground rules and stick to them. Plan opportunities for movement during the lessons. Not making them sit all the time. Maybe stand up, walk around the class, or do something. Just speak to the partner, right? So all those help in developing positive behavior. Questioning, brainstorming, increased questioning, brainstorming sessions. Hands-on activities like maybe playing computer or working in the computer, playing computer games, carpentry, agriculture, making them involved in those kind of activities. Watching video clips, demonstrations, right? So all these will determine they are learning something at the same time their behavior too is getting shaped. So knowledge and behavior go hand in hand. Cooperative learning, group learning. Make them to learn as group, right? So when it is group learning, not only the academic knowledge, even the communication skills as well as morals develop. So that's all about the learner behavior, right? So remember how learner behavior can be facilitated and the procedure of identifying or managing learner behavior. And in addition to that, why people behave in certain manner, the two basic purpose why learners behave in a particular manner, and the behavioral traits or characteristics of behavioral learner behavior. All these we discussed under this particular topic, right? So just look at it. Definition, features, functions, and how it needs to be handled. Right? Then we move on to the last topic, which is types of learners. Tell me the different types of learners that you can come across in your classroom. Who are the different kind of learners? Are they all identical?
Learners, slow learners,
Slow learners, okay.
Gifted children.
Gifted, okay. Gifted children, slow learners. Mostly, how do people learn? How do we learn when it comes to a classroom setting? What is the predominant way that we learn? Is it something to with observation, or it's something to do with listening, or by doing certain things? How do it depends? You can't say each person has his own way of learning, but mostly 90% or 75% of the people learn through what?
Reading and writing.
Okay, by reading or by writing something, by writing, taking short notes. So they are more inclined towards visual stimuli. Any kind of visual stimuli is needed for them if they are to remember and learn.
kinesthetic learners,
Oh, how do they learn? Yeah, you are right. How do they learn, kinesthetic learners?
By doing, by seeing, hearing,
By involving in actions,
activities.
activities. They are always interested in doing something, performing. But it can be just by playing a game, or it can be by doing an experiment, right? So learning takes place more effectively in them when they do something than just by quietly reading and learning, right? So people have different ways or different styles of learning. Though we have different styles, there is one or maybe more than one predominant style that decides how we learn, what kind of a learner we are, right? So thereby we need to know the learning style. So in addition to the learner behavior, now when the learning style of the particular learner is not met, he will definitely have a deviant behavior. It will result in a different or in a deviant behavior, right? So thereby learning styles to determine how children behave in classes. So read what learning styles are. What is a learning style? Refers to the way you receive, store, and retrieve information, right? So learning style means you receive information, how you receive, how you remember, and how you try to recall. All these three take place based on the learning style. So people have different learning styles. Not everyone learns the same way. Some are visual learners. Some are auditory learners. They don't need much visuals or any kind of visual stimuli to learn. If they are able to listen to something very attentively, they will remember and learn. And you have kinesthetic. So different people learn differently. So predominantly they will have a particular learning style that dominates than the other. When you know your preferred learning style, you can adapt yourself better to the classroom and learn more effectively outside the class. So we have to first detect our own learning style. So now in our case, we are not going to learn, we are going to teach. So we should be able to detect the predominant learning style of our learners. If there are 25 in the class, how many visual learners are there? Are there visual learners more or auditory ones more? What is the outstanding learning style of most of the learners? That should be identified by the teacher. Then only it will be effective. Teacher can effectively teach. So basically, there are 6 learning styles that exist among humans. Reading, learning something by reading, writing, listening, speaking, all the 4. Then visualizing. Again, reading and writing correspond to visualizing as well. Many by handling objects or by getting in doing certain activities. So these are the different ways by which people learn. All these 6 are categorized under 3 styles. Auditory style, right? Listening and speaking come together and you have the auditory learning style. Visual learning style. Reading and writing come under visual. Tactile, manipulating come under tactile, right? Visualizing, manipulating, everything comes under. Visualizing can even come under visual, right? So basically, these 6 categories are streamlined under auditory, visual, and tactile, right? So the 3 predominant learning styles are auditory, visual, and tactile. Look at the different types of learners in a class. You have visual learners, auditory, kinesthetic, verbal learners, or linguistic learners. Those of them who are good in verbalizing or using language to learn certain things, right? So they can be even people who memorize certain phrases or expressions and learn through that. Logical learners, based upon reasoning, based upon the logic that exists behind a particular situation. So usually it's believed logical learners are good in mathematics, subjects related to mathematics, ICT, all those things, right? So they have very good analytical skills. Social learners, people who learn something by communicating or interacting with others. They can't just sit at a place and learn. They have to be moving around and interacting with people. Solo learners who are incapable of working in groups. They need to be just by themselves. Opposite to social learners. Here, these people, they need to work hand in hand, work in groups, whereas these ones, they need individual study time. They are not good in working with others to learn. Natural or nature learners, people who interact with nature, who need to be placed in a naturalistic setting, in a nature-related environment if they are to learn properly. Not in a classroom or not in a very formal setting. Maybe when they sit in their garden and learn something, they will definitely learn it better than learning it in a classroom, right? So these are the different types of learners in a classroom. Quickly read aloud, one by one. First one. Hey, read aloud.
Visual
Visual.
learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners, verbal learners, logical learners, social learners, solo learners, and natural or nature learners.
Okay, which kind of learners do you think will be good in learning the language? Can quickly learn the language? All of them can, but which one do you think will be able to effectively learn the language?
Linguistic
Verbal
learner.
learners,
Verbal learners or linguistic learners. Okay. And one more group is also there. If you want to learn auditory, listening. Okay. More than that. If you want to learn a language,
kinesthetic,
kinesthetic means you do something and learn. Okay. What
by
are they?
engaging with people and all those.
That's exactly what I want to want you to detect, but it's more than
Social learners.
social learners, right? With those of them who engage with people are known to be social learners than that of kinesthetic. Kinesthetic people will be good in learning what? You touch or you do something and learn. So what are the subjects that are involved in performing things and learning? You need to
Speech and drama,
speech and drama. Okay. Yeah.
Aesthetic subjects.
Aesthetic subjects. Yes.
Like dancing and music. Something related to sometimes like a motor mechanism and such.
Mechanical subjects, carpentry, then even ICT, science, right? So you need to perform do something, agriculture, and learn, right? So always it's based on a, not kinesthetic, yeah, based on actions. They require certain activities for them to learn. Which ones do you think is good in handling mathematical skills?
Logical learners.
Logical learners. Who needs a lot of self-study? Who is in need of a lot of self-study to learn something?
Solo learners.
Solo learners. Right, then you have visual learners. Visual learners, reading, writing, visualizing, this is how they learn. So if you find any learner busy writing notes when you are teaching, or all the time who is in need of some kind of a handout on which they depend on mostly, notes, note writing, or requesting for handouts and all, that is a clear indication that person is a visual learner, right? So they will always need a visual stimuli to learn. Keep text with them during lectures so they can refer to the written word. Read assignments, busy writing assignments, reading assignments, taking notes while reading. On the book itself, you will find book being underlined, or in the margin, they would have taken short notes. All that define that the particular person is a visual learner. He depends more or less on visual stimuli to remember and recall things. Then you have the auditory learners. They don't need much of visual stimuli. You can't say they don't need at all. They will rely on visual stimuli as well, but more, if it is 20% visual stimuli, more towards speaking and listening, right? So they, even if they don't have a handout, they won't be much bothered about it, but definitely they need to listen to the teacher explaining the topic, or maybe at least a tape recorder, if they are to remember. Compatible with lecture classes, right? Why? That provide them an opportunity to listen. Benefit from participating study groups when discussions are going on, when different learners voice out their opinion. They listen to it and they learn from that, right? So auditory learners always benefit from discussions, explanation, auditory explanation, tape recordings, and so on. You can hear others discuss the concepts. Tape lectures, reading aloud. They themselves will be mumbling something within themselves that gives them a satisfaction that they have learned. Right? So they read aloud, they learn by muttering the content to themselves. Tactile or kinesthetic learners. By manipulating with certain concepts, or by just getting engaged in hands-on sessions, right? So they are not need of many visuals, or they don't just need more opportunities to listen, but they learn, they remember best, or they are able to recall only when they do certain things by themselves. They have to manipulate with it. They have to have their hands set on those tasks. Then only they will remember. Build models, replicas, take notes, do something. It can be flashcards or it can be an experiment. transcribe handwritten classroom notes on the computer, right? So soft notes, soft copy, or maybe in a different way. For math, make sure they do not practice problems and homework. They do, right? So they have to engage in practicing certain problems and repeating certain actions. That will determine whether they have learned that content or not. So those are known to be the kinesthetic learners. So they always need hands-on session, hands-on experience for them to learn. With those kind of learners, you have to make them move around. Use exercises that get pupils out of their seat. You can't expect them to learn from where they are. They need to move around and learn. Right? Role play, engaging in dialogues, dramas, all those are good for them to learn the language. Meetings, having meetings, language related meetings and all. Verbal learners or linguistic learners. Read. People who make use of language elements. It can be proverbs, it can be just idiomatic phrases, rhymes, all those will help them in learning the knowledge. Making use of the language, like oral learners, verbal enjoy, rhymes and wordplay, right? So any kind of interaction is needed for them, mostly verbal interaction. Communicating words is needed for them. Group discussions, these can be done very effectively with verbal learners. Make them engage in group discussions. Presentation, assign topics for classroom presentation. Assign role plays. Flexibility related to learning new vocabulary, right? Like dictionary pages or maybe scrapbook. All those are good ways to promote learning happening verbal learners. Mind map, using mind mapping technique. Then you have the logical or the analytical learner. Read. So they are always focused on rationalizing situation. They won't just easily memorize things. They need reason behind what is being explained, right? So logical learners, they always look for reasons if they are to learn. See, look for patterns and trends in what they learn. So they need to be satisfied with the concrete reason. Then only they'll be able to go ahead with the learning program. As long as there is no reason or logic behind what they are learning, they're interested in learning it. Search for the connections and reasons and results. It can best motivate them by using lessons that are introduce questions, brainstorming. Based on reason, we can make them to brainstorm certain situations. Present material requiring problem-solving abilities. Essays or maybe any other kind of problem-solving small problems can be given to them. It can be a mathematical problem. It can be a social problem through which language should be taught to them, right? So they are good in learning something through problem solving technique. So we may use the problem solving technique to teach them the language. Encourage them to reach conclusion based on facts and reasoning. Like you just give them a topic and ask them what are the positives or the negatives related to that. Now, when it comes to using mobile phones or capital punishment, is it fair to implement capital punishment in Sri Lanka? So that is a problem for them. They need to solve it based on reasoning. Mobile phones or internet, what are the plus and the negatives of using mobile phones among students or with the students? Then you have the social learners, people who learn things by interacting with others. Opposite to that of solo learners. See, they are in need of social interaction. Read up. So as long as they interact with people, converse or communicate with people, they tend to learn effectively, right? So by helping the other learners or by observing the other learners, they can easily learn things from them. Group activities, role play, improvisation, creating mini classroom situations like Sunday fair of parliament, classroom parliament sessions. All those are improvisation techniques that will help the social learners to learn language. Asking and answering question sessions, even story narrating. When one person stands up and narrates a story, the others listen and question them. And the last one, solo learners. Read. People who are capable of learning themselves, right? So learning by themselves. They don't want the interaction with others. Right? Study alone. When by themselves, these individuals thrive. So they are good in working alone. They don't want the disturbance of others. To assist this style of learners, use exercises that focus on individual learning. Right? So you make them to work on their own, to come out with their own answers. Ask them to keep personal journals, to jot down whatever that they don't understand or whatever that they are struggling to understand in a personal journal, and the teacher has to help them out. Acknowledge their individual accomplishments. Basically, reward them. When they perform well, maybe in an examination or maybe in the class, acknowledge. Just reward them with verbal rewards or any kind of physical rewards. Then you have the last kind of learners, nature-related or natural learners. Read. When interacting with Mother Nature. So they need a very calm and quiet environment if they are to learn. Right? So They seem to respond best to a more peaceful, natural type of learning. They will be fruitful if they are placed in a busy environment. They need a very serene, calm, quiet place to learn. Many ways they are similar physical or tactile learners. They learn by engaging in hands-on learning experiences. But those hands-on learning experiences will be more towards nature. Outdoor classroom, playing in the playground, right? That is how they learn in a naturalistic environment. Look at your self-study task now. What is learner behavior? You have to write or define behavior in your own words. There is a definition provided in the slide, but don't just copy it, read it up and you define it using your own terms. What factors determine it? We have 3 important factors. Just mention those factors. So explain what learner behavior is and mention those factors. Explain any 5 possible ways of handling learner behavior in a classroom. How can teacher promote positive learner behavior or minimize negative learner behavior in the classroom? Tell me any possible way to promote positive learner behavior in the classroom. What should be done? Think of a possible way how we can promote good behavior in the children.
Appreciation for their good behaviors.
Appreciating, okay. By encouraging and appreciating their behavior, you can award them smiley faces. You can award them what kind of marks? Black mark, honor mark, right? Honor marks. You have a chart. You maintain a chart in the class, and whenever a good deed is done by the child, you just mention maybe 2 or 3 honor marks in that chart, red mark. If something bad is done, then you obviously give a black mark, right? So that is one way of encouraging positive learner behavior. Think of some other way. Now the learner, when it comes to primary grades or small children, what will or how will they get influenced? Either to positively behave or negatively behave.
To gain something or to avoid something. They involve in behaviors.
Yeah, so they involve in something in order to gain or avoid something. But I'm asking, in small children, what is the factor that mostly determine their behavior in primary grades? Who or what mostly determines their behavior?
Hereditary.
Hereditary, okay. Hereditary is responsible for a certain extent, and hereditary and environment. Okay, think of environment. Which environmental factor is more forced?
Classroom environment with the teacher and the peers.
Teacher and the peers, right? So the child is basically imitating the teacher as well as the peers, right? So imitation. Therefore, when the modeling of the teacher. Now your question is explain 5 possible ways. So providing or being as a role model. Teacher functioning as a role model is very important in promoting positive behavior in the classroom. If the teacher herself is going to behave in a very cunning way or acting in a very vicious manner in the classroom, the child will obviously copy that, will try to imitate that. Then we can't find fault with the behavioral pattern of the child, right? So being positive role models is very important. It is another way that can influence the learner behavior. Not only the teacher, even the adults, even the other people who are with whom the child is interacting, the parents, the siblings, all of them are responsible. So like that, you find out 3 more ways, possible ways that will that need to be handled in the classroom in determining learner behavior. Mention the different types of learners in the classroom. So we saw around 6 types of learners, right? What are they? Just mention any 4 of them. Visual learners, starting from visual.
Auditory learners.
Kinesthetic learners.
Naturalistic learners, solo, so many, no? Right, just mention all of them, right? Just in point form, mention all those 6, or I can't remember how many were, 6 or 8, right? So mention all these 8 different types of learners first, and then at least 3 kinds of activities that can be used in teaching with them. For example, with visual learners, what are the 3 different kinds of activities you can use with them? You can make them draw pictures, write answers for questions, right? Like that, you have to think of 3 activities that would go with each of these kind of learners. If you need more clarification regarding the self-study task, just ask. Okay, just quickly recall what we did today from the beginning. Just as you get into your mind, as it gets into your mind. The topics, I don't want the elaboration, just come out with the topic that we have, subtopics that we have handled.
Learner behavior.
Okay. Learner behavior, good.
The characteristics.
Features, characteristics of learner behavior.
And their functions and the purpose of it.
Okay, the purpose of learner behavior.
Handling
Why?
behaviors of the students. Process of
What
handling.
process of handling learner behavior? How teacher should handle or try to help out the learner behavior. After that, after trying to handle the learner behavior, what did we move on to?
Types of learning
Types of learners. Right. Different learning styles and types of learners. So that's what we did today. If you are in need of any slide, just ask me. Tell me the slide number. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. Repeat it, please.
Page 12, slide 12.
Slide 1.
Page 12.
Five. This one. Any other slide that you are in need of?
Slide 12.
Slide
12.
5.
No, 12.
12. Okay.
24.
Tactile and kinesthetic. Anybody else who is in need of any slide? Right. So complete your self-study task and send it to the institute following the regulations. Whatever that is mentioned, follow all those and send by Wednesday, right? So when last
Miss, please show me 15 and 16.
do you want?
Yeah, slide 15 and 16.
Here, slide 15 and then 16. Got it?
Okay.
Okay. Anybody who is in need of any other slide? Right. So right. So finish everything and send it to them by 12th when it comes to the following week. Right? So before or now before the 12th. And follow the same practice even in future. Even if I forget to remind, make sure that you send it by Tuesday, latest by Wednesday. Okay, then we'll conclude the session for the day and meet you on next Saturday. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.